I once heard a story of a man who noticed some very unique differences between cows and buffalo. While I have no idea if this story is actually true, it really illustrates an important point that I want to talk about here today on Ninja Tactics. So it turns out on the plains that you can see a storm coming for miles. You can see it as it begins to form over the Rockies. Well, when these animals see this storm forming, turns out cows and buffalo react in a very different way. See, when cows see the storm coming for them, they immediately turn and run away as fast as they can. And I don't know if you've ever seen a cow lately, but they're not exactly the epitome of speed. So the storm, it eventually catches up with them, and they kind of run along in the storm, and then soon the storm passes over them, and then they're in the clear. Well, by going that way, the cows end up staying in the storm for a longer amount of time because they're running with the storm. Whereas buffalo, they tend to do something that is kind of unnatural. No matter who you are, if you're an animal or if you're a human, what they do when they see that storm coming, they immediately charge right for that storm. So they turn straight at it and start charging into the storm. This is a very counterintuitive act that actually shortens the length of the time they spend in the storm. The lesson? Be the buffalo. Yes, channel your inner buffalo. You see, too often we turn and we run from storms in our lives. Well, whether it's a big project or an uncomfortable conversation with a teammate or a personal habit that we're working really hard to change, we tend to kind of run away from it almost. We either avoid it or we kind of find ways to work around it or ways to waste time trying to follow like an easier path, kind of just avoiding the situation or taking only very minimal steps to kind of make progress on our project or with that conversation. But if you take the way of the buffalo, if you turn and charge right into that act, you're going to minimize the uncomfortableness. You're going to shorten the length of time you have to deal with that storm in your life, that uncomfortable, painful situation maybe. You're going to be able to pass through that much quicker than if you turn and run away from it like a cow. So it is kind of a very unique analogy, very interesting analogy. Like I said, I'm not actually sure if that's the way cows and buffaloes actually react to storms, but I think it's an important story that illustrates a very important point. Sometimes we need to run into the storm. Sometimes the way to get through a difficult situation is to face it head on. So how might this look like in your day-to-day life? Well, figure out what that important item is, the one that you've been avoiding, and take steps to run into that first thing in your day. So if it's a project, make that task first. If it's a difficult conversation with a teammate, we'll take steps right away in the morning, first thing, to set up the conversation or to set up the conversation that needs to happen between you and your teammate in order to resolve that conflict. It could be as simple as sending them an email right away in the morning saying, hey, we need to talk. Whatever it may be, take steps that very first thing in the morning. Make that the first thing you do. Start running into the storm. Be the buffalo. Channel your inner buffalo and run into the storm. And until next time, you can see Ninja Tactics every single Tuesday, so be sure to subscribe to the email list so you get every single tactic as well as all the other blog posts. And until then, go out, take action.